a look at a cooking television show, and our monthly segment of a pastor's side hustle. All that and more coming up now on Joy in the City, True Stories. Joy in the City is a program highlighting people and organizations having an impact in our city. All too often, we hear about the problems and dysfunction in our culture, but we are coming with a different approach as we take a look at the good things going on right here in our community. I'm Lindsay Irvin, and you're about to see what God is doing in our city. Dano Burkhart is a double-leg amputee who feels the Lord has graciously blessed him with a second chance at life. We had the opportunity to talk with him and learn about his new show called Dano On The Counter.
Hi Dano, thanks for being with us today. Before we get involved in the whole TV show aspect, just give our viewers a little bit of a synopsis of your background.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, most people when they first meet me, the first thing they want to know is what happened to my legs, why I'm in this wheelchair. And to help the viewers understand, to answer that question is I was born with a birth defect called spina bifida, and my legs were crippled from the time I was born. And my spine was only half grown. And so I had a lot of neurological problems and things like that where I couldn't walk. And of course with my legs and the orthopedic and issues I had there. And then growing up, as a young toddler, just kind of had some other issues where I had to learn to crawl and be independent. And my parents teaching me how to do things on my own and telling me what I should and couldn't do, but also giving me the opportunity to say, hey, I'm not going to put limits on you and let you do things on your own to find out on your own what you can and cannot do. And that's a big part of my childhood was my parents and their influence on me letting me figure things out on my own. But then when I was 6 years old, I actually had to have my legs amputated, and that was the first major surgery that I had. And they actually took my legs and they rebuilt my spine with my tibia bone from my leg. And I was the second person in the world to ever have that operation done. And that really led into my faith and how God used my parents and trusting doctors to be able to save me, because I needed that surgery because I needed room for my organs to grow. As I was getting bigger, I didn't have enough room for my spine growing. I didn't have room for my organs. So it was really a faith issue with my parents, of course, and trusting what God was going to do for me, and letting these doctors do what they needed to do. And then also instilling in me that, hey, we're just going to give it to God and let him decide what his plan is for you. And we're not going to put the limits on you, and we're going to see where God takes you. And that's kind of the whole synopsis of my life. That's what kind of brought me to where I am today, is just having that faith in who God is and what he's going to do in my life, and whatever's next, I'm just going to push forward to that next thing.
And this whole thing of how you have navigated life and all these obstacles has opened the door for you to be kind of a motivational speaker.
Right.
What would you say is the main thing you're trying to communicate to everyone?
Yeah. So my whole purpose in this is that it's not my story. It's God is using me and what he's done in my life. And my job now is just to share that with other people. Every opportunity that I have, obviously just losing my legs, and then I've had 47 major operations since then, 2 kidney transplants since then, several major back surgeries, a stroke even. So everything that God has put in my life, every hardship, every difficult day that I've had, that I'm like sitting there thinking, oh, where is God in this? And what is God going to do for me? And how am I going to get through this? God has really shown himself to me and brought me through those things and helped me learn and trust in him and build my faith through everything that he's brought me through. Just everything builds on one another, one thing after another, And my job now is to share that with other people and say, hey, whatever God has given you, whatever situation that you're in, hey, God is there and God's going to help you get through it. And you're going to be able to get through it by looking at what God has brought me through. And when you're done getting through your situation, you're going to be able to help show God and what he's brought you through as well. So that's kind of my whole thing now, is just sharing not my story, but God's story and what he's been able to do in my life.
So how did you manage to take all of that and create a cooking show?
Yeah. So
unbelievable.
I really like sharing my story. Obviously, I'm a talker, and the cooking thing was kind of an idea that I kind of came up with, that, hey, I just want to show people how I do things, And we were kind of sitting around, and I contacted a buddy of mine, Dan Peters, and we kind of just did a YouTube thing, just to do one thing and show people how I cooked, And I was like, all right, well, I cook from on the counter, and I decided, I was like, I just call it Dano on the Counter, and kind of make it kind of funny and show people what I was able to do. And then it kind of grew from there. And I've also been able to share my testimonies along with that each week. I'm able to share a little bit about my story and what God is doing, and share my faith and what God has done in my life and what he can do in other people's life as well. So we've kind of joined the two together and put them together on this show now. And we call it Dano On The Counter, and it's on Fox on Sunday mornings. And I get to share a recipe, my family recipe that we come up with, or one that my parents have used in the past, and then share a little bit about my faith and my testimony at the end as well.
So they are family recipes.
Yeah,
down.
Yeah, probably for 90% of them so far have all been recipes that we cook at home from relatives or my grandparents or mom and dad and a couple of family friends as well. But yeah.
To me, cooking is a craft. You're either good at it or you're not. So how did you get to be a good cook? Because I've heard that your stuff is phenomenal.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm by no means the greatest cook ever, that's for sure. I make mistakes and I burn myself and drop things and do things wrong all the time. But I think that kind of adds to the show. It's real. It's just me, doing just like everybody else. Trying to make it through. But yeah, I got these recipes and we just try to make things easy that people can do at home and things that people seem to enjoy. And everybody, nothing too fancy that people have to get too anxious about trying to do at home. So it's kind of a neat thing for everybody to try.
Now I know you're kind of getting a little fan base. People have recognized you as far away as Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's really neat. Just it seems like everywhere I go now, I'm kind of stick out a little bit, when I go somewhere, and but people, come up to me and say, hey, we really enjoyed your show, or we enjoyed certain parts of it. We enjoyed the story at the end, the testimony part, or when, seeing you do things like driving and cooking and shopping and things like that. We really enjoy just, your daily life and how it is being in a wheelchair and how you're able to overcome things.
And they've even seen you, people have seen you, because they film you in the grocery store.
Right.
Like, it's the process from the shopping all the way to the finished product.
Right.
Which is quite a task.
Yeah, it's pretty neat to show the whole process and how I drive, how I get there and how I pick up things and able to reach things in the store or what have you. And then also just, we would hope that eventually we'll be able to show more and more of those types of things and how I, get on a boat and a water ski and do different activities and how I travel and things like that. So our hope as the show progresses, that we're able to show those different things that, hey, I'm just like everybody else, but I might have a couple of different things that help me do those things that everybody else does, and we hope to highlight those things.
Was it by design that the show actually is multifaceted? It shows you overcoming, it shows your skills, and then it gives that word of encouragement at the end.
Yeah.
And that is very impressive.
Yeah.
And it's no wonder that when people see you in public, they recognize you, Dano, because you have a story that is like no other.
Yeah.
And I just feel that one day that's what I want you to be known for. I don't want you to have to always address the elephant in the room.
Right.
Because you have so much to offer, and I just am amazed.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, my whole life has been that, it's been, I've always been the person that people recognize or can see, and things, and people are curious about what happened, and my life has always been about sharing my story, and I've always been able to do that and kind of just be open about that, and now it's on TV, you can't be more open than that. I've shared some things on Facebook in the past, but now having the show to really show people what God has done for me in life and how I can encourage them. I've always been told that, hey, your story is an inspiration to me, and things that you've been able to overcome in your life, and now we just have an opportunity on a bigger scale to share that with a lot more people. And I just really think that's what God has planned for me, and we're just excited to see what's next.
So as we wrap this session up, I want you to share with the viewers, those that watch you faithfully, what are some things that we can do to help you in this endeavor, and what are some things that we can be praying about for you to keep this thing rolling and keep you successful in what you're trying to do?
Right. I mean, I love to hear from people, you know, and if they've got comments about the show and they like the show, I love for people to reach out and let me know, you know, and if they have show ideas and they want to see something that, hey, you know, Dan, we want to know how you do this or that. I would love to hear that so I can explain that and on the show and maybe show them how I do those things and really just pray that God continues to use me and use the show to show Him. Not so much. It's not about Dano, what Dano does, but it's really about Him and what He's helped me get through. And I really just want that to be the story of the whole thing. And my whole life is that the things I've been through with the transplants and losing my legs and stuff like that. It's just that it's not for naught, and I've been able to overcome those things because of who God is, and hopefully it just helps people get through that little thing that they're going through in their life that helps them overcome each day, you know. And hey, the sun's going to come up, God's going to get you through it, and He's going to take care of you.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for being here.
Sure.
Mouth-watering family recipes, easy-to-make meals, humor, and faith fill the inspiring new show, Dano On The Counter. Born with only half a spine, Dano Burkhart was never supposed to be able to hold his head up. Despite countless surgeries, a stroke, leg amputations, and kidney transplants, Dano developed a contagious love for life. Join Dano on Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. on Fox 8 as he shares his easy-to-make dishes and the hope that keeps him pushing forward.
If you know a person or an organization impacting our city, we want to hear about it. You can contact us at 814-944-1948 or by email at stories@joyinthecity.org. Closed captioning for today's program is brought to you by Harry's Construction.
This segment is brought to you by Harry's Construction, whose motto is, "If you can dream it, we can create it." They are the kitchen and bath design experts, so call Harry's Construction for all your remodeling needs.
Today we will meet with Pastor Jonathan Wixson as he shares about his side hustle.
Hi, Jonathan. Thanks for being here with us today. We have been doing a series on people who are active in ministry but have a second job or a side hustle, if you will. So why don't you first start by telling us a little bit about your place in ministry?
So I'm actually the lead pastor of Renew Church. I pastor it with Matt Burns. And so we're a new church. We're about a year and a half out, and we're running about 60 people on a Sunday morning. And we focus on families, discipleship, and serving. But we've got a lot of people who come in who's in the recovery, who comes in struggling, comes in just down and out, or they come in and they're de-churched, they're unchurched. They don't know really who Jesus is besides a curse word, but they just come in and they're just hungry. They're hungry to see what God's doing and where He's moving in the city and through Anew, but also other churches. And so it's just it's been a fun ride in the last year and a half.
So you're still in the beginning stages.
We're very much still in the beginning, and so we launched as in COVID because we were trying to reach a smaller group of people, and we came from a backyard club of just ministering on kids, and so then we were trying to figure out what does this look like and how do we unfold that, and then we just kind of launched out of Overflow Church, and so. We're really new into it, and new churches, they tend not to have money, and so the way we feed the family is to work full-time, part-time, doing construction, and so I do that while I'm doing ministry with the church, preaching most weeks, and Bible studies and everything else on top of construction.
So the construction is actually your side hustle.
Yeah, so I'm all about the side hustle. My wife breeds dogs and sells cookies, and so we understand what it means to hustle and to have that stuff on the side for those times you want a little extra or you're trying to plan or make by. And so for me, I've been doing construction for 20 years, and so I've had times that I've had 8 people working for me, and I've had times where I've only had 2 or 3 working for me, and so I've got one guy now, and so it's just something we go in and we do work for a while. We'll do anything from remodels to floors to handyman stuff. And actually the handyman stuff works out nice for me because I can go in and put a new sink in or faucet in the morning and do a counseling in the afternoon. And so that makes it easier than a big remodel job.
What would you say is the biggest challenge in trying to balance the two?
Probably balance is the two is because in the end, there's always clients who want more work, and they always want, either if it's a bigger job or smaller job, they want you there. But then the church, in all reality, a lot of them work anyway, and so they're busy during the day when I'm working, but then they're ready at evening. So the moment I get off, that's when most people are getting off, and they're calling to want to meet for discipleship or meet for counseling or have their own issues or Bible studies. And so my side hustle gets me through till most people are off, and then church kicks in. And so the biggest balance isn't just balancing the two, but it's also balancing family. And so that's the key, is to understand, wait a second, if I know it's going to be a heavy ministry week, then I need to slide off in the morning and take some time in the morning. Like today I actually took off a long lunch, and I took my kids to a park, and we just went and played and hiked and did a picnic lunch. And so just trying to balance the three, because church will be very demanding if you let it. Work will get that way as well. And so it's just trying to figure out, how do you get that balance that fits for the priorities you have and you want to make it.
And priorities is a thing, and I think too for you in trying to balance three aspects of your life, that you have to set boundaries in all of those areas.
Yeah. And so for us, it's one of those that it's like we have work time. And so anything usually before 4:30, 5 o'clock, I can plan whatever I need to plan. After that, I check with my wife, and I check to make sure, because that's also family time and ministry time. And so if I fill up too much stuff there, my wife will just be like, hey, she's a wonderful woman, and she just keeps me in check and says, hey, you haven't put your kid to bed in 3 nights, or whatever that looks like. And then just keeps me accountable to what my main focus is, ministering to my family first, and then it goes to the church. And so if I'm not doing right by them, then I'm not doing right by the church. And so she helps keep me accountable and priorities when it comes to all of it. And the nice thing about it, on a side note, is since I'm working full-time or part-time, is the church people say, hey, he's working full-time and doing this on the next. It's not like, we pay the pastor to do that. And I hear that all the time. And so we find people are willing to step up more. They're willing to, he doesn't have time to go do certain things, but it's something I can do. And so I've got people running errands. I've got people checking different things because I just don't have the time. And they're capable of doing it. And so they're able to step in and just serve right along with me, not feeling like, this is what we pay them for. And so that's kind of nice too, because we're serving together. It's not just the few people who's there as well.
Right. And for you don't have time to be a micromanager.
Yeah.
You have to trust the people that are under you and let them roll with it. And I can kind of appreciate that.
Yeah. And it's just building people up and equipping them and saying, you can do this. So many times people are like, I can't do what you can do. I'm like, it's just one step after another, and then you get the hang of it. I learn a lot from computers to that, just watching YouTube videos. Not as much construction, but I've created websites, I've created flyers and banners and all that. But they're like, well, how did you learn it? I just watched YouTube. I did it enough times to then I got comfortable with it. And so it's just saying, you can do it. I think that one of the biggest struggles that people have is they don't feel that they can be empowered to do things. And in all reality, people can be empowered to step out and to do a side hustle, to do side ministry, to start all sorts of different things if they're just passionate about it and they want to learn and step in and step out in that.
What can we as a faith community do for you to help you in this journey of trying to expand a ministry and still provide for your family in the interim? Yeah,
I mean, I guess one thing is just as we expand the business, I'm also expanding the church. We're actually looking for a new location because we're outgrowing that space. But I'm also looking to expand the business some as well, because the more I can get them them or other employees working, that means I can leave it to them more than having to be there all the time as well. And so you can look me up at John Wixson or JW Construction on Facebook and just kind of go from there. I'd love to hear from you, get jobs, bids. We do have some filling up, but we're just excited to see what God's doing. And he just keeps bringing work whenever we need it. And we walk through. I got the guys who are always working and excited too. But being in recovery, the church having recovery, there's people who come in and they don't have a job. They need something just to get through till they can get a full-time gig. And we've been able to help with that and be like, hey, all right, I got a 2-week job for you. And then that gives them enough money and stuff to then get on to the next job or whatever that looks like, or find them a full-time work as well. And so just probably prayer and just boundaries in that, because we're excited for what God's doing through Renew. And I do construction because I love to do ministry at the church. I do that because that feeds my kids, but my passion is the church, is just loving on the people of the church, bringing new people in who's never heard the gospel before, who's broken, and finding them and just praying with them and them being hungry enough to come. Just excited to be in the church and see the Holy Spirit move in people. And so that's exciting.
Well, I'm excited for you, and I've never met you before today, and I think what you're doing is excellent, and you're providing a resource to those that you're trying to minister to, and almost like a mentor type aspect, and I love that, and we're all about that here as well. So thank you for being here with us today and sharing that. We're really excited.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Impact Productions, a multi-layer technology company providing on-site, online, and in-studio video services. Contact Impact Productions to capture your story.
Made by Vogel is a father and son business that produces high-quality handmade wooden products such as cutting boards, bowls, bottle stoppers, and more. Products for sale can be found on their Etsy site or in downtown Altoona at the Clay Cup. You can't go wrong buying from Made by Vogel.
For our final segment today, we have a few thoughts from Pastor Jim Balzano as he shares from his podcast, Transformed.
Good morning and welcome to today's episode of Transformed. Today I want to talk to you about loving the fallen. You know, I once had the privilege of being part of helping to restore a fallen and broken minister. Some actions of the past had cost him a position at another church. Without a church, without an income, he was doing whatever he could to provide for his family. And yet, wasn't sure if he'd ever be in full-time vocational ministry again. Upon meeting him, I believed that God fully wanted to restore him to what he had called him to. However, I didn't know how that would happen. I know there would be detractors who wouldn't want that to happen. There would be naysayers who would deem him unworthy of restoration. In their minds, he should be punished for the rest of his life. As a matter of fact, one person told me that. There's just one problem with that. It's not biblical. You know, it's not biblical at all. Today, that person has done a wonderful job, was restored to ministry, and was a great pastor. It's not always pastors, though, that are the fallen. Sometimes it's the people around us. It's those closest to us. It's other church members. It's individuals in our families. You know, when these situations happen, one of the things that happens is disappointment. We feel disappointed. We're betrayed. We can have unforgiveness enter in if we're not careful. The Apostle Paul seemed to be dealing with a situation like this when he wrote 2 Corinthians chapter 2. In that, he instructs the Corinthians how they are to conduct themselves to a man who had fallen into sin. Here's what Paul said. Sufficient for such a one is this punishment, which was inflicted by the majority, so that on the contrary, you should rather forgive and comfort him. Otherwise, such a one might be overwhelmed by excessive sorrow. Many people, not all, believe Paul was addressing the man in 1 Corinthians 5 who was sleeping with his stepmother. Apparently, he had been dealt with through the discipline of the body. However, Paul said that the brothers should be given forgiveness and comfort. You know, it's amazing. Those who have fallen into such situations, they're devastated by it. They know the pain they've caused. They know the heartache they've caused. And yet, it isn't hard for them to be swallowed up by it, to be swallowed up by excessive sorrow. But the forgiveness and the comfort that comes from the other parts of the body safeguard a man against excessive sorrow that leads to destruction. Because Paul then wrote, I urge you to reaffirm your love for him. The man who fell into immorality was to be offered forgiveness and comfort by the body, along with, get this, reaffirmation of love from those who he had offended. Sometimes people mess up. It's that simple. When they mess up, they should be accountable for it. However, Paul's suggesting that we, the body, hold them accountability, but also make sure we offer forgiveness, comfort, and an affirmation and a reaffirmation of love. All too often, if we're not careful, the church can be guilty of holding people accountable for their sins, yet not holding itself accountable for true restoration. The church has been notorious for killing our wounded. People who have fallen into these things, who receive forgiveness and comfort, will then be able to rise past their past failings. The church should do this for the individual, but it also should do it for the church as a whole. And let me show you why. Let me read this to you. Paul said, so that no advantage would be taken of us by Satan, for we are not ignorant of his schemes. That's so important to hear. When a body of believers will not offer forgiveness, comfort, and love to those who have fallen, it is playing into the schemes of the devil. The devil is out to destroy the individual through their sin, but our failure to offer them what Paul says we should offer is falling into the scheme of Satan. He wants the body to be unforgiving. His desire is for the church to be judgmental, hard-hearted, lacking sympathy. If Satan can keep a church from loving the fallen, the rejected individual becomes better prey to Satan's trap, and so does the church. No doubt these things cause pain in the church and have caused some to be unloved, at least maybe being viewed as unlovable. But that's not scriptural. The sin by which they fell was this temptation of the enemy to destroy them. The church must not respond in an unbiblical manner that in essence aligns us with that purpose. Loving the fallen is a weapon against the schemes of the devil by which he would destroy the person and the church. And so this week, let me encourage you. Love the fallen. They may have fallen, they may have hurt you, but love them so we don't get tricked into the schemes of the devil. Have a great week.
If you have a personal story or a testimony you'd be willing to share with our community, we want to chat with you about it. Please contact us at 814-944-1948 or by email at stories@jointhecity.org. That's all the time we have today. Thanks for watching Join the City True Stories. Let me encourage you to watch other episodes of people and organizations having an impact on our community on ABC 23 at 5:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. every Sunday. You can also catch us each week on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. But until then, be encouraged because God is moving in our city.